Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending the local shopping tips webinars. We appreciate your attendance. Thank you for your time tonight, and we will get started. Again, my name, for those of you who don't know me, is Denise Smalls, and I'm with the Westlake Financial Wellbeing Center. So just wanted to give you some background on us. The financial, the Westlake Financial Wellbeing Center is here in the community, and we provide free services to the community in 32805. We provide virtual financial counseling, financial webinars such as this, which, by the way, if there is a specific webinar that you would like to, um, if there's a specific webinar that you'd like us to provide to the community, please let us know. We have our phone number and an email for my coworker, Latricia Holt, is there on the screen. We also help with job placement, career resources, and community resources. So again, we provide a lot of different resources and webinars. So we always are happy to have you here with us. And thank you for joining. We just wanted to let you know that every month we have different webinars, and just want to let you know that we will be hosting on Thursday, March 11th, the next webinar, and that's building a great resume. So we're going to have a great speaker come on and talk to you about how to build that perfect resume if you are trying to elevate your career, or trying to get into a new career, or just want someone to look over that resume, or just want some tips about your resume. We all could use information about how to have a great resume. So please join us on Thursday, March 11th, and it's the same time at 6:30. And excuse me, we'll have a wonderful speaker who will provide wonderful tips on how to build that great resume. So that's our next webinar that's coming up. And then just a little housekeeping for you. Everyone who joins is already muted and your video is turned off. And the webinar will be recorded. If you have any questions, you should see the Q&A feature. Please put all your questions in that feature, and they will be answered after the webinar. But as we're going along, if you have questions, please put them in. Don't want you to forget those wonderful questions. And so please put them in as the webinar is going. Feel free to put that in all along. You do not have to wait until the webinar is done. Once the guest speakers are finished, there will be a post-test link provided for you in the chat. So I'm just going to put a link in that chat feature, and all you need to do is click on that link. Once you click on it, you'll see an assessment that will come up. Please put your full name in that assessment, and then answer the questions and just hit submit. We will have a raffle drawing when all of the post-test assessments are received. Most of our webinars, we do have a raffle drawing, but we need to have the assessment before we can provide, it'll be a gift card that we provide. And then we just wanted to let you know that we collect and maintain registration information, and we don't sell it, we don't share it, we don't provide it to anybody else. We just use it to let you know about information from the Financial Wellbeing Center, such as the upcoming webinars that we have, as I mentioned earlier. So I am going to stop sharing my screen so that you can get the information that you originally came here to get, and that is from Claire from the University of Florida IFAS Extension, and she is going to provide one information to you about shopping tips. They have great information that they provide to the community at all times. So you have that information. that you can receive from them. And then just to give you some information about the speaker, it was in your registration, but just in case you didn't know, Claire Castro, works in the Family Nutrition Program. She joined the program in the fall of 2019, and prior to that position, she was in the Family Nutrition Program. She graduated from Florida State with a degree in nutrition, and she plans to pursue her studies to better understand policies and current practices of food systems in underserved communities. In her spare time, she enjoys nature, reading, and baking. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Claire. And thank you again for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Denise, for that great introduction. So can anyone see me? Are you guys able to hear me? Give me a thumbs up, Jenny.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
We
perfect.
can hear you and we can see you.
Okay, perfect. All right, welcome everyone to Cooking Matters in Your Community. My name is Clarena Castro, as Ms. Denise said, and I come from the University of Florida as a nutrition educator. Today, we are going to cover buying fruits and vegetables. So our program, for those of you who are not very familiar with what we do, our program is designed to teach children and adults and senior adults on the importance of healthful food, healthful eating, changing lifestyles, and of course, physical activity. Next slide, please. So with us today is Ms. Jenny Evangelista. She is my co-worker as well as my tech assistant. So she will be assisting us with the slides and any Q&A questions that you guys might have. She will be just assisting us. So I don't know if you guys can see her. So that's Miss Evangelista for you all. So we want to thank you all for attending today's lesson, and we want to make this definitely work for you. So please feel free to either comment in the chat box or drop your questions in the Q&A section. Or when we ask questions, we just want you to make this as familiar as possible. We want to make this as friendly as possible. So unmute your mics and share your input with us. So before we continue, we would like to launch a four poll questions, and this is just a survey for our personal information. With that said, our program gathers demographic information from our community so that we can get to know our community the best way possible, and so that we can better serve you. Know that these questions will not be shared with anyone. This is just solely for our program to be reported to who attended, who is actually here, and that's about it. It's not going to ask you any personal information as far as name or anything like that. You'll see what I mean. If Ms. Denise can pull up the first poll question, please, I'll appreciate it. So the first question is, what is your gender? So please participate. We definitely want a 100% participation. So we thank you all. All right, how is that going, Ms. Denise? Hello?
She's put in the chat 5 out of 7.
Okay, perfect. We definitely want to see 11 out of 11. So all right, time's almost coming to the end. We definitely want more participants. So please drop your information in the poll answer. Then again, it's not required, but we definitely want to know you guys so that we can better serve you for next classes and so on. So we'll appreciate if you guys fill it out. All right. Okay. Perfect. We have 85% participants. Okay, 100% participation. Yay, awesome. Thank you. We can move on to the next question. What is your age range? So 18 years of age to 59 or 60 years old and older. So there aren't too many options because these are not for teenagers or anything of that nature. So we don't have that many options, but you guys. Okay, 100 participation. Awesome. Thank you guys. Third question. See, now we're moving faster. This is great. Are you Hispanic or Latino? Yes or no? A 100 participation. You guys are great. I'm going to start coming here more often. Oh, you guys are awesome. All right. So what is your ethnicity? Check all that apply to you. American Indian or Alaska Native, Asian, Black or African American, Hawaiian, or Pacific Islander or white. Then again, since you guys did 100% participation, we can go on with, okay, Ms. Denise said 100 participation, 100%. Awesome. Well, thank you all for your time. See, it wasn't that bad. So we really appreciate all your input. Next slide, please. So you might be wondering what today's lesson is about. So we're going to talk and learn together about buying different types of fruits and vegetables. Next slide, please. So to begin with, let me ask you guys a question. Now this is where I want you guys to participate, either drop your answers in the chat box, or if you want, you can unmute yourselves. So what is your favorite fruit or vegetable? Any volunteers? Oranges. All right. We have mangoes. I love mangoes. Yes, mangoes. Perfect. Anyone else? How about vegetables? Broccoli and avocado. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I love avocados too. Broccoli and avocado. Anyone else? Eggplant. Wow. Haven't had a lot of people like eggplant, broccoli, and corn. Okay. Yes, corn is one of my favorites. All right. Well, thank you all for participating. So today's lesson, as you see, the emphasis is on fruits and vegetables. For those of you who are not familiar with this little graphic right here, I don't know if you guys can see Jenny's mouse. Yes, she's pointing at the My Plate. So that is the representation of My Plate. You can find more information about it on choosemyplate.gov. But this is just what the dietary guidelines for Americans want you to consume. So we're not going to focus on dairy, grains, or protein. We're mainly going to focus on fruits and vegetables. So you might have had a question in the pre-post survey that we asked you, right? So what was the percentage of fruits and vegetables that you should consume? So according to the dietary guidelines for Americans, it says that you should choose at least 30% vegetables and 20% fruits. So with that said, at least half of your plate should be fruits and vegetables. Okay, so next slide, please. Alrighty. So eating fruits and vegetables, it's so beneficial. We've heard everything from it's good because it contains tons of vitamins, minerals, the fiber content, water content, which varies depending on the fruits and the veggies, right? But we can also say that vegetables and fruits are beneficial because it helps us lower blood pressure. It reduces the risk of heart disease and stroke. It prevents some types of cancers. So tomatoes are great on lycopene, and lycopene are a great inhibitor for cancer. So what about lowering or controlling your blood sugar level, right? How about some of us who want to maintain a good body weight or lose weight? So fruits and vegetables are low in calories. So they're super beneficial if you want to level up your body weight. And it definitely lowers the risk of digestive problems because, again, we're consuming enough fiber, enough water content in the veggies and fruits. So it helps us with our digestive issues as well as eyes. So it has a lot of benefits, but we are not going to go into so much detail with this. And we're going to move on to the next slide. You will receive this eventually. And this is just a representation of what I was talking to you guys earlier. It's called the My Plate little logo, right? And so basically what it narrows down to is that we want to make sure that we lower the amount of saturated fat, the sugar content, and the salt content in our diets, along with consuming low fat and fat-free milk or yogurt. We want to make at least half of our grains whole grains. So when you go to the market, make sure you read in the ingredients list whole. So the first ingredient should say whole. This contains more fiber. It'll help you with your digestive problems. So if we move down to the protein, we want you guys to vary your protein. So having anything from legumes, so like your beans, your lentils, chickpeas, as well as poultry, beef, eggs, peanuts, nuts, seeds, etc. If we move down to our vegetable section, we want you to have a lot of veggies as well as fruits, right? Why is that? Because a healthy eating pattern is truly important for every stage of our life, right? So this poster just is a great way for you guys as a reminder to keep it in your refrigerator or in the kitchen somewhere so that you guys can be mindful every day to consume a little bit of each food group, right? And of course, we want you guys to be mindful about physical activity. Physical activity and drinking water is beneficial. So if we move to the next slide, we're going to see a video. We're going to watch a video on the differences of buying produce that is both fresh, canned, and frozen. Okay, so pay close attention, and Ms. Jenny is going to play the video for us.
Let me know if you can hear it, please.
I don't hear it, Jenny.
Okay, thank you. I will hopefully fix it by doing this.
Fresh, frozen, and canned. Fresh foods are often less expensive during their harvest season. When shopping for frozen and canned options, compare food labels and choose products with the lowest amounts of sodium and added sugars. Frozen fruits and veggies are picked at the peak of ripeness and then flash frozen to preserve optimal nutrition. They last for several months in the freezer and can be a very economical choice. Canned fruits and veggies are convenient to have in your pantry for times you can't get to the store. They can even be kept at work with a can opener for an afternoon snack. Since they don't expire quickly, you won't waste money when buying canned veggies, which sometimes happens with fresh produce that goes bad. The good news is that all produce counts, which means canned, fresh, and frozen varieties can help you reach your goal.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Jenny. So from this video that we just watched, we can say that choosing all produce types of vegetables and fruits, such as fresh, frozen, and canned, can help you stay healthy, right? So if we move on to the next slide, you may have thought about the different types of fruits and veggies when I ask you guys the questions of what is your favorite fruit? What is your favorite vegetable, right? So being flexible is very important when choosing these vegetables and fruits because no single fruit or vegetable provides all the nutrients that you need to stay healthy. So making buying choices. Try these tips when choosing wisely in the market when you're going for either fresh, frozen, or canned. So number one, buy fresh produce when it's in season, right? So the main title of this presentation was how to purchase things in like a low, like in a budget, right? So we all need that. We want to make sure that when we buy fruits and veggies, they're in season because it will cost less and it'll taste better. So a lot of people come to us saying, oh, well, eating healthy is so expensive. I cannot afford buying fruits and veggies. And I understand, because I myself sometimes like scratch my head like, oh my goodness, this is so expensive. But if we go to either Choose My Plate or the USDA website, you can find more information as to what fruits and vegetables are in season. And this is such a great tool because it'll help us make wise purchases, right? So we're saving bucks by knowing what vegetable or fruit is in season. You also want to buy canned, frozen, or produce vegetables that read low sodium, reduced sodium, or pre-sauced, right? That has no pre-sauced or salt added. So sodium is another word for salt. We want to make sure that the canned products say no salt added or reduced sodium. So for number 3, you want to look for fruits that have been canned in juice with light syrup. And if you have the syrup, the regular syrup, it's okay. You can always rinse out the cans and you'll be good to go. Because again, we want to minimize the amount of sugar and salt and fat in our diets. Now we're going to do a little activity. And I will ask you about the pros and the cons of different types of produce. And I want to hear your input. So Jenny, if we go to the next slide, please. All right. So, fresh produce, what do you think are some pros and what are some cons? Anyone? I will give you guys a hint. So with the pros is that you can smell, you can actually touch, you can taste it, not taste it, but yeah, so I see some people picking the grapes and stuff, which I won't recommend now during COVID, but yeah. You can definitely grab it, see if it's ripe. You can smell it, right? So what are some participants saying? Okay, one of the cons can be that it spoils fast. Absolutely. They can mess up quickly, for sure. And the pro is that the taste, right? So Linda, thank you for sharing. Yes, absolutely. Those are all valid answers. Miss Jenny, we can go to the next slide. All right. So definitely there's a greater variety with the pros. We're able to touch, we're able to smell before buying it. So an avocado, you can actually see it, right? And if it's green, you can tell it's not ready. It needs to turn a little darker or like black, like the Hass avocados, right? So definitely you can have that opportunity to check out the produce before buying it. It can cost less when purchased in season. What are some cons? Well, we can see that it must be used quickly because, like you guys said, it can go bad pretty fast. And we also need to learn about the ripeness and storage. And it can cost more if not in season. Next slide, please. All right, so frozen produce. What are some pros, and what are some cons? Anyone? It can last longer. It's still fresh, yes. How about cons? May contain chemicals? Okay. Yeah, why not? Anyone else? I wish I had the Jeopardy song. Did I say it right? That goes dun 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 dun. Anyone else? Okay, Miss Jenny, we can go to the next slide. All right, so some of the pros is that it's still fresh when frozen if it's picked at its peak freshness, okay? It can cost less compared to out-of-season produce. And one of the benefits is that it lasts long, up to 6 months. So keep in mind, some of the questions will be in the post-test. So be mindful of the time, of the long shelf life. Just giving you hints. With the cons, it may have added salt, sugar, extra fat that we don't need in our diets. The texture changes with freezing, so water molecules preserve food, right? And it changes completely. But when we thought they are edible and they're just as great. What about the space that we need for our freezer for storage, right? So we always want to keep in mind about food safety. A lot of us tend to put tons of things in the freezer, and guess what? They can still go bad. So one of the cons is that we need a good storage. Next slide, please. We're going to move on to the canned. Any pros and cons? Anyone? Okay, I see someone said you can microwave in the back, of course. Ruben says cons. Issue with canned food is there is no digestive enzymes in order to give it a shelf life, so they heat it to 118 degrees. Okay. Too much sodium, absolutely. Anyone else? What about some pros? It's already cleaned. Okay, I can see that. Okay. Next slide, please. Can be used in case of emergency. Yes. Okay. So we can see that canned is good because if it's picked at its peak freshness, then it'll be just as beneficial, and we're going to see why. It can cost less when compared to out-of-season produce. So in case of emergency, like one of our participants, Ms. Molina said, it's good to have, right? Because it has a long shelf life, 2 to 4 years, right? What else? What are some of the cons? That it can have added salt, sugar, and fat. And again, the texture changes with canning. Next slide, please. This is the smart shopping. Okay. So keep in mind that when you are grocery shopping, we might not be aware of the various vegetables and fruits out there. And if we're unsure of the storage process, of when to buy it, when it's at its best season to purchase it, make sure you always ask the clerk. There's also tons of apps right now. Depending on where you go grocery shopping, you can find deals, right? So they can tell you, you can find a BOGO or buy one, get one free type thing. So always want to make sure that you do smart shopping in that sense. So ask the clerk, ask your family members. That was one of the options that is one of the options that we can do. A family member, if we know that, I don't know, a brother-in-law knows how to get the deals from a wholesale store, we can always ask around. So that in itself helps us do smart shopping. So family and friends, asking a clerk, applications in our phones, right? And so now we're going to move on to the next slide, and we're going to see why there is no best type of produce. So all types of fruits and vegetables can keep you healthy, regardless of the preparation process, of the time it takes to cook, and it can all help us to reduce disease. So choose canned vegetables. Again, this is a recap. It might be on your questions. So you want to keep in mind that canned vegetables are always chosen with that low salt, low sodium, and if you don't want to, you can always get the regular kind and always rinse them out before cooking. Try to avoid words like sweetened or seasoned, as this may contain extra salt or extra sugar added to the product type that you're getting. And you want to choose canned fruit in light syrup. Again, if you want to go for the regular kind, always rinse it out. And one of the things that we always make sure that you keep in mind is that with those produce that need to be on the freezer, you want to make sure that your thermostat is working. It actually reads 0 Fahrenheit, right? To help us keep our vegetables and fruits in check. So with the canning, canned food can be just as nutritious as fresh and frozen foods. And why is that? Because with the canning process, like one of our participants says, yes, they're heat up to 118 degrees, but they're very minimal. So the timing when the vegetables or fruits are put into the into the canning process, it's actually very short of a time. So the amount of minerals, fat-soluble vitamins, protein, fat, and carbohydrates remain unchanged in the process of canning. With the frozen, it actually slows down the process of what we call in chemistry oxidation. So always think about a banana, right? Or strawberries. So when they are ripe, we can always freeze them, and that stops the oxidation process. So stops fruit or veggies from turning brown. So with the fresh, the nutrient content is intact. So this is our best option, right? Because it's just fresh and it's awesome. However, fresh produce starts degrading as soon as it's picked from the ground or the tree. So we have to keep in mind that it must be used quickly or it'll go bad, okay? So again, all of these three options have their pros and the cons, but they're all just as nutritious, okay? So now we're going to watch a video and you're going to receive a recipe handout, which you can try at home on your own. So Jenny, if we move to the next slide, please. It's called the pasta with beans and greens. Okay, thank you, Jenny. So you just saw the video of pasta with beans and greens recipe. So we saw some of the vegetables were onions, carrots, right? Um, Let me ask a question. What kind of carrots would you use? Would you have used the frozen or the canned? Any volunteers? The frozen. Okay. Why? Can we know why? Less sodium? Absolutely. How about taste? Fresh only. Yeah, I would have done the fresh, but what if we run out of fresh, right? So we want to minimize our trips to the grocery store. That's also part of the smart shopping that we always want to keep in mind. So making sure that we do a grocery list before running to the store, right? So what if we run out of fresh carrots and we only had frozen or canned, right? So we always have to think about that. Okay, less sodium, tastes better. Uh, then I would take another trip. Of course. Yeah, it's your preference. I mean, it's up to you. Okay, well, thank you all for sharing. So, at the end of the day, it's about preference, right? And accessibility. So, if we move to the next slide, Jenny, please. So, now we're going to go over some tips. So, we have leftovers. So what do we do with them? Leftover vegetables and leftover fruits. So, what are some things you guys can do with leftover vegetables? Any ideas? So, the point here is to minimize food waste and to save some bucks, right? Stir fry. Yeah, I love a good stir fry. Mm-hmm. How about soups, right? Salads, stews, casseroles, pasta, maybe sauces. What about scrambled eggs? Or maybe an omelette? Right? What about fruits? What can you do with leftover fruits? Would you toss it into the trash? I mean, depending, see, we wouldn't want that process of degradation or oxidation, right? Where our fruit gets like really brown and smooshy and yucky. No, we don't want that. But if it's ripe enough where it's still edible, what? Okay, smoothies, perfect. I was looking for that. Yes, we can make smoothies and fruit salads, right? So those are all great ideas. Always think about your bananas. I always think about my cousin who hates when the bananas turn like a little brown. And I told her, you can make smoothies like with that, and you have like pineapple chunks or maybe spinach. Spinach is a great way to have your children to introduce vegetables into your children's diet. So spinach is very neutral and it can make a really great smoothie with some yogurt, some milk of your preference, maybe some strawberries and some bananas. Blend banana into oatmeal. Yes, I do that too with some cinnamon. I love cinnamon. So yes, now you guys are making me hungry. Yes, those are all great inputs. So thank you all for participating. So next slide, Jenny, please. All right, so wrapping up with our presentation, we can see that each produce type has its pros and its cons. And you guys are more than welcome to visit the USDA website or the choosemyplate.gov website where you can find tons of information. And so we can see that you may choose different types either because of a recipe, the time preparation. So you might be in a rush and you don't have the fresh or you don't have the time to do the fresh one, but you have canned or frozen, it's totally fine. How about accessibility in our local stores and kitchen pantries, right? So maybe a lot of you guys will not be like our participant that says he wouldn't mind going to the grocery store to go for that ingredient, and that's totally fine. But we want to help you minimize stress going back and forth, right? So we want you to be creative in your meals. And again, you can visit the choosemyplate.gov where you can find more information as to how to make healthy recipes in little time with little ingredients. How about budget? Budget is also one of the things that we need to take into consideration. And at the end of the day, cultural and personal preferences, right? So there are many factors that need to be taken into consideration, from the access we have to various produce, to the way these are picked, to the way they're processed. But the takeaway lesson from this is that know that all of them are nutritious. Okay, so next slide, please. I was just about to click next. All right. So this week, I want you to choose one new thing that you learned today that you would want to try this week. So say, well, I learned that I need to make half of my plate fruits and vegetables. What kind of fruit and vegetable have I not tried, right? Maybe it could be adding a new vegetable or a new fruit into your diet, right? It can be making a grocery list. I never made that before. What about coupons? Using coupons to save some bucks, right? Maybe downloading that application to see what's in sale and what's a like your BOGO sales or the good deals that they have, right? Maybe it's asking my brother-in-law, my sister, my cousin, what do you do to get into this, to become a member in X and Y Z store, things like that, right? So we want you to be wise about the things that you make, because the little small steps that you take will lead to a healthier lifestyle. So choose one thing that you learned today that you would like to try this week. Okay. I see some people say Whole Foods about the website for foods in season. I'm not sure if you will want us to share with you the website, so we can post that on the Q&A or we can post it here. So if you can be, I don't know what you mean about the website for foods in season. Do you want us to share it in the chat box? Another participant said, I learned there are benefits to using canned and frozen fruits and vegetables. Yes, thank you. All right, next slide, please. All right, so now we're going to move on to the Q&A section, and I see we have a participant. Winifred said asparagus. I guess that was in the section where I asked you guys about what's your favorite fruit and vegetable. So our participant said asparagus. Okay. All right. So any questions? You can either drop your questions in the Q&A, or you can not unmute your mics and you can ask. Then if not, we're going to move on to the last slide. All right, guys. So thank you all so much for attending today's lesson. It was a pleasure seeing all the feedback and seeing you guys participate. I really enjoy that. And I want to thank you all for your time. If you guys have more questions, please feel free to reach me at castro.c@ufl.edu for more information or more questions. And I will be more than happy to share more information with you guys. Ms. Jenny also posted my email in the chat box. All right. So I see one participant said, Ivani Montgomery said, what fruits are in season now? Okay, that's a great question. So about fruits, I'm not quite familiar, but with the vegetables, I know potatoes, sweet potatoes, the herbs like parsley, carrots, strawberries are in season, blueberries, so all the berries. Anyone else?
Claire, I have a question. In terms of the fruits and vegetables that are in season, so when you go to the supermarket, how do you know if it's in season or not? Is there a website you can go to? Is there an app? Or are you assuming that if it's in the supermarket, then it's in season?
Yes, you can always visit the snapit.fns. Let me just give it to you guys. snapit.fns.usda.gov, and you can search okay. Oh my God, sorry, I typed the thing wrong. So it's snaped.fns.usda.gov. And so you can see what's in season. So asparagus for our great participant said asparagus. I haven't had anyone say asparagus is their favorite. With thanks for sharing. Swiss chard is one. Carrots, like I mentioned. And then for fruits, so we're now going into spring. With Florida, it's kind of tricky because Florida, it feels like we're always in summer, right? So always look for so now it's more so like spring, because although it's a little chilly in some areas, it's not as cold, so we can still see some of the spring produce. So you're gonna see like the broccoli. I'm actually planting broccoli, so hopefully it turns out good, and some herbs like lettuce. What about lettuce, garlic, kale, spinach, strawberries, turnips? So all these are on. Okay, someone said also ask produce manager when visiting the store. Yes. So like I said, always ask questions to the clerk if you're unfamiliar, and I'm pretty sure they will be able to assist you. But yeah, so choose my plate. .gov is a great resource as well.
And then I have another question.
Mm-hmm.
On the Choose My Plate, I think on one of the slides you had, you know, fruits and protein and vegetables, and I think one was dairy. And what happens if you're allergic to dairy? Is there alternatives or substitutes that you can use for that?
Absolutely. Right now, there are a variety of alternatives like soy milk, almond milk, cashew milk, coconut milk. So first off, the person needs to know that they're intolerant. They need to be seen by a healthcare provider and see what the best diet for that person is. However, like I said, there's even rice milk. So isn't that wonderful? But you guys, oh yes, coconut milk is a great one. I buy it often because I'm lactose intolerant myself, but I always got to make sure that it says calcium fortified. Okay. You always want to make sure that you have calcium fortified. And also, green leafy vegetables are a great source for calcium, believe it or not. So there are tons of varieties out there, as well as green leafy vegetable. The dark green leafy vegetables are great sources of calcium for those of us who cannot have regular milk because we're intolerant. Cashew milk, I love cashew milk, yes. So almond milk. What's another one? Yeah, right now there is a rice. I tried the rice one, but it's a little too liquidy for my taste. I don't really like it. My favorite are the almond milk, the soy milk, and cashew milk. Coconut? Yeah, I like it too. So anyone else? Oh, and by the way, the dietary guidelines for Americans already published the 2020 to 2025 dietary guidelines, which are a great source for you guys to look into. And also for those of you guys who are more so on a plant-based diet, there are guidelines that you can follow based on your dietary needs. But then again, we always recommend that you visit your healthcare provider and maybe a certified dietitian that can help you with your needs. But as a general rule, let me see if I can find it right now. You can always visit the dietary guidelines for Americans and you can find lots of great resources. Okay, so I'm going to send it right now. And you can download the PDF. And this is just for everyone. Right here. There you go. The dietaryguidelines.gov is where you can download the PDF format and you can just have it and read it. It even has information for infants, for everyone. It's wonderful. I want to copy myself. But yeah, so here it is. You can download that and it's free of access, so take advantage. Anyone else? Okay. I guess I don't have, you guys don't have more questions for me. So with that said, I want to thank you all for inviting us this evening. And thank you once again for your time.